authors Mia Pride, Peri Maxwell, and Nadine Millard. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hi.
Thank you for having
Hi.
me.
And they're coming from all over the world today, so
We are.
we have
I'm the
got quite a
European
group.
delegation today.
You can be the European delegation, and Perry's in Central Time Zone.
Oh, okay.
I'm in
Mia, you're
Arkansas.
East.
I'm in
Arkansas.
California.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, Mia.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I'm in California.
Oh, okay. So you're Pacific time, so it's morning for you. So we've got all the time zones. Well, not all.
Yeah.
We have quite a few time zones represented today. But so you're gonna get tired of hearing me say this because it was a big week for releases of Dragonblade.
It was, yeah.
Just like
There
the
was
way
a lot.
it is right now, particularly in February. So we had 4 books released this week. Sandra Suko is not able to be with us today, but she had a book release. It's Teasing Miss Atherby, or Teasing Miss Atherby. That's right. And I'll pop the link for that in the comments. We'll talk to Sandra at some point in the future. But if you haven't gotten it that way, you can grab your copy of that one. And that's book 3 in the series. So, but the first release we're going to talk about is Nadine's book, and it's the last book in the series. And I know it's the last book in the series because it's winter.
Yes, exactly.
It's a winter wedding, and it's the winter wedding, and it's the Lords for All Seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it was hard to say goodbye to this series.
Yeah.
I think it's always hard to say goodbye to a series, but this one just got me right in the feels when I finished this. I didn't really want to finish it, but yeah, people have been impatiently waiting for this one. So yeah, I had to give them what they wanted. So yeah, it's a winter wedding. It is Sophia Templeworth's story and her men, and I saved the loftiest title for last. This is a Duke. And he's Scottish and he's 6'5". I figured, if we're gonna go out, we'll go out with a bang.
Well, yeah.
All the romance hero boxes. So he's huge and gorgeous and rich and a Duke, and Scottish.
All the best things.
All the things we love.
Yeah. Exactly. So Sophia, people will know if they've read the first 3. She was probably because Evelyn, they're not exactly the most well-behaved girls anyway, these sisters. No. And Sophia was probably the wildest of the 4 of them. And her book is crazy because in the first book she's actually only like a child. She's 12, and these books take place over like 6 years. So by the time we get to her story, she's a grown woman. But one reviewer actually said it was nice to see her grow up, but it was nice to see her still be obsessed with her horses. And she very much still is. Yeah, and it was really fun to write. There's a lot of he's a Duke and he's used to getting what he wants, and he decides that he's going to marry her. So he doesn't actually ask her, he just decides that that's what's going to happen.
Oh, poor little lamb. I'm imagining he's going to be surprised by that.
Yeah, and he just did not figure on coming up against her. So she has decided that she is not in fact going to marry him. And there's a lot of chaos that I think people have come to expect from this series of books and these sisters and the men in their lives. So lots of humor, a little bit of spice, lots of romance, and a happily ever after in the end.
Oh, good. I love that the series takes place over such a long period of time, because then we get to see the family as it as it actually grows. So
yeah, and I sometimes I've done books series where things have kind of overlapped and taken place, but I really wanted each sister to get like her story and to settle into her life with her lord before I moved on to the next one, but they all they make a reappearance in this one, and there's an epilogue where they're all together and it's years into the future again. And I'm a sucker for an epilogue, though. I can never seem to just let them go and move on with their lives. I always have to come back and check in and make sure everyone knows they're still happy. So
yeah, I like that too, and I like to see when they're babies and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to see them for long, but I like the idea of knowing that they exist. So.
Yeah, just we leave out all the messy details of being newlyweds and having to try and get used to each other and stuff. It's all the good stuff. It's all the rainbows and butterflies.
Oh, well, fun. Oh, that sounds great. Well, I'm sorry to see this year's come to an end.
No,
and I can imagine it's hard to to write
You
it.
never
So.
know. I might get them to pop up in different books in the future if I'm still as obsessed with them. You never know.
Yeah, well, and it's a great chance when you have a collection with the novella and stuff too to just revisit,
Yeah,
a couple and get to see.
And I like to kind of pop characters from different books into, future books, even if they're just at the same ball or whatever. It just, it's always nice when readers go, "Oh, I recognize that person,"
Yep.
and I'm like, "Yes, you do! Yay!"
Yeah, yeah, I love to see them
Lots
too. Oh, very cool, very cool. Well, we're going from finishing a series to starting a series, and Mia, you have a brand new book in a brand new series. It's Where the Thistle Grows, and it's Picked in Time. And I love the covers, and I love the setups for these. And
Beautiful.
I was gushing when I was putting up the ads for them. Can you tell us a little bit about the book and the series?
Yeah, so this is my first time travel series. I have a couple of contemporaries, but mostly, is from. But this story just popped into my head. I was reading an article about, when they dig up old bones and they reconstruct it, and you can actually see what the person looked like. They found an ancient burial of a Pictish king, and in my head, it just, the wheels start turning. Like, what did it feel like for the archaeologist who dug this up? And now you're seeing the bones, and now you're seeing the face. And I started thinking about, this whole story came to mind, and I had to sit on it for a few years before I actually could fit it into my writing schedule. But once I did, it was so much fun researching this new time. I had never written anything about the Picts. I mean, it's the year 685. So there's not much known about
early days.
Yes, I was very lucky to be able to go to Edinburgh and actually do personal research. I went to the museums. I got to see a lot of Pictish artifacts. I put as much accurate history as I could into it, being that there's not a lot known about the Picts. So my hero is named Brodin McCall. He's the Pictish king that is found buried in this cave by a modern day archaeologist named Katrina Murray. And, she has these reoccurring dreams about a violent death. And she's driven by these dreams to become an archaeologist one day. And she's got this legend about this king that she's just obsessed with. So when she gets asked to be part of this archaeological dig in these caves, she just jumps on it. She's like, I know we're going to find something. So throughout the events, she gets thrust into time. I won't say how or anything like that, but she runs into this big, hulking warlord king, Brodin, who thinks that she was sent from one of his rivals to be almost like a marriage alliance, right? There's a big war on the rise against the Angles, which is in England. So all the neighboring Scottish tribes, Scotland's not whole yet. They're still rival tribes, but they're trying to come together, create a union to defeat the Angles to the south. And he thinks that she is basically the bride that was sent to be there. And
surprise for her.
Yeah, so she's, in this new place, in this new world. She doesn't know what's going on. Luckily, she knows as much as she can about the time for someone, because that's been her life's work. But there's so many surprises. She doesn't know what to expect. She's trying to tell him she's not who he thinks he is. So, but it unravels. There's war, there's love, there's characters that can pass between the veil of time and some who can't. And I really had a fun time. I think there's also humor because I wanted to really focus on the fact that she's from another time. She's talking about things sometimes that she has no idea what she's talking about. So I think there's a fun mix of everything going on. Being able to write a modern character in, a time so long ago, over 1,300 years ago, but trying to make those worlds blend and those characters really mesh. It was complex, but I think in the end it came together really nicely. And I really love the story, and I'm excited for people to be able to dive into this series and meet these characters that are going to follow us through the rest of the series.
I love that. And I love the idea of her knowing who he was, the time period before she goes. It's like the thinking about what that means,
right.
like being displaced at a time. I think that's fascinating. And I think one of the reasons we're fascinated with time travel stories, aside from the fact that it's cool to learn how stuff works, I like that part too, like the learning how everything worked, is the idea that it's really easy to empathize with what it would be like to be thrust into a completely separate thing, and then you're this completely new person in this completely new place, and have to find your way around.
It's an interesting concept to try to turn something so fantastical like time travel and turn it into something plausible, something that the reader can say, hey, what if that could happen? I could go to a cave in Scotland and something happens and fall through time, right? So trying to turn something so, magical into almost something that feels real was a challenge, but I think it went really, really well. And I think what you said about her recognizing the hero, she knows because of her memories or these dreams that turn out to be memories. I don't want to give too much away, but she knows he's going to die tragic death, right? She knows that he died in this battle, and that battle's looming, and she's in danger of falling in love with him. She's now married to him, so how she navigates that, and there is a happily ever after.
Okay, good, because I was going to say,
don't get us attached and then just kill him off.
It's a love story, so it all works out, okay? But how it works out is there's twists, there's turns, so. But in her head, he's going to die. She knows this. His bones. So now she's there, married to him, falling in love with him, and she's got to navigate the world, these emotions, knowing that she has no choice but to go along with it to help them create this alliance to win this war that'll change the history of Scotland forever. So there's no backing out.
You have stakes on top of stakes.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds so good.
Yeah, it was. If you can tell, I put a lot of love into it, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
No, well, it shows, and like I said, we've been gushing about the covers and the book package, the blurb, the tagline for the first book was just the easiest thing in the world to set up the ads for it, because it was like the stakes are
those
right
taglines and those blurbs are the worst. I mean, I'd rather write a whole novel than a blurb and a tagline.
Yes.
When I get the email that I need to send in the tagline, I'm like,
the blurb
how do you turn 8,000 words into one sentence? So
I almost think it's easier to do it for somebody else than it is to do it for yourself, because you can see the parts that actually matter.
That you didn't prepare for. It's like a test in school that just gets. And even though I always know it's coming, I'm never prepared for it.
Right, and I never have it ready. They'll be like, "Do you have it?" No. I put it up to the last minute. So, yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah.
Well, we know how hard it is on this end, so when you say no, we're not all that surprised. We still need it right away, but we're not all that surprised that it's not ready. So.
Right. We can't put it up until I have those things right. So it's like,
and every time I start something new, I'm like, you know what? Before I do anything else, I'm writing a blurb and some taglines, and then I don't, and then
and then you don't.
But this time I'm going to.
Next time. Next time.
Well, we have another new series launching this week. Peri has her first Dragonblade book, which is like extra exciting, and it's the first book in a new series. So it's his Enterprising Duchess, and it's the first book in the Enterprising Women's series. So, Peri, can you tell us about it?
So the Enterprising Women is set in early Victorian Britain, and I set it in early Victorian so that if I accidentally let some Regency bleed over in my research, I could fudge that. And people don't say, they
smart
didn't
is
do
what
that.
that is. That's smart.
Wait, this is early Victorian. But I like seeing women are different, both are, and so Enterprising Women follows the first series follows the first three women in who are starting their own in a time when they couldn't own property and business, and how they've managed that through a lending circle that lets them set up a straw man where he stands in front of them and owns the business, and they just work for him. So And then all of these women are doing these incredible things. The first one, the one that released today, is an innkeeper, and she's also keeping the local village afloat by loaning all of the villagers money to.
She's a bank. Oh, we lost Peri.
Or to pay their bills because the Duchess is broke and they can't afford to do anything, and she has all of the money but they all think they're borrowing money from the straw man. So what's going on? Her second son is my hero, Lord Oliver Hawkins, who ran away from home, fortune, and ran to Canada. And somebody says, "Why Canada?" I'm like, I don't know. He wanted to go to Quebec. So there you go. He's in Quebec. He's made a fortune in lumber.
Oh, that makes sense for Canada.
So, yes. So, there you go. He inherited some property from his grandparents, his grandfather, that nobody wanted, and he went over there because his mother kept telling him, well, he was second, and because, of course, as older brothers are, was a spendthrift. He was going to run. And Oliver is also very much in love with and he doesn't want Thea to be poor if she marries the second son, so he goes off to make his fortune. And then
I love that. I love that kind of second son, drive to prove themselves when there's not an obvious place for them.
He's never wanted to be titled. He never wanted to go to London. He speaks Spanish because his grandmother was Spanish. He and Thea learned to speak Spanish so that they can tell secrets to each other when everybody else is around. And he does it a lot of the times just mad because his mother doesn't, he should really be speaking French. And so the running game, Oliver's French. And for somebody who relocated to Quebec, it's another challenge. But he goes to Quebec to make his fortune, but before they go, he and Thea have one hot night, and he promises to send for her, and then their mothers get involved and separate them. And so he comes back to help set the village right and to set his family fortunes right. And Thea is still in the village, and they have to deal with seeing each other when they each think the other one broke their heart. And he also is going to need money from the straw man, which is that's going on.
Love that. That's
good.
That's really good.
It was one of those things where it came to me, and I kept thinking, okay, what would make this worse? What would make this worse?
Let's turn the volume up. Let's just keep turning the volume up a little bit.
Talking about all in their all the humor in their books. This is, I hate to say this, but I kept thinking, man, I think I need something funny in here. I'm not exactly sure. This book doesn't seem funny. So the second book is my rom-com. Oops, sorry.
Oh, we lost her. I'm really hoping that was your phone and not your chair.
Yeah.
I'm short, so I propped on something so that you see more of me.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yes, and you're not looking at my nose because so sorry about that.
I wrestle with that every week because I am short as well. So I'm actually sitting on a pillow, so that it's a little bit higher because otherwise you're just going to get like this much of me. So.
Yeah, or here.
Well, I'm at the day job, and the chair I'm in won't adjust because I'm in a conference room, and so I'm like, I can't make the chair shorter, so I've got to make the laptop taller. Second book in this series, His Spirited Lady, is a rom-com, and it follows.
No.
The next two books in this series follow the two of the distillery, which hence Spirited Lady, and
cool.
The other one's a madam.
Oh,
Like a madam.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other one's the other one madam, and
it is quite enterprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, well, actually, that one's the Strawman's book, and he meets his past, who he's desperately trying to rescue from life as a madam, and she keeps looking at him going, I really don't think that's necessary. You can leave me exactly
just fine here, just fine.
Just fine. I'm just fine over here doing my thing. I do like to call her, though, the Dread Pirate Roberts of Madams.
Oh, fun. So fun.
So she's a little bit different. She's not exactly just like no one woman in the series is exactly the way you think she is. You get a version of them, but it's not what she's really like behind the scenes.
Yeah. Love that.
Oh, well, that sounds like so much fun. I love the setup for that one, and I love that we have that we get the torture first, and then we get to do the after.
And then the third hero get tortured in his own.
We don't mind a tortured hero.
Oliver's right up your alley then. I mean, Oliver has all the drama and all the angst. Oliver's got a broken heart, a dead wife, a child.
I love how you're like, in the first book, I'm going to tear your heart out, but in the second one, it's going to be lovely.
And the third one, have like a widower with a child and everything.
Yes. My husband keeps asking me, which book are you working on? I said, it's the Victorian Single Dad. Okay.
They love a good single dad story. Those are some of my favorites. Grumpy Sunshine and Single Dad.
Yeah.
And Oliver, of course, being the rebel, is like nurse. And of course, I can do all of this myself.
Oh, that's fun.
He didn't have it. So his 4-year-old is his shadow through the book.
Oh man!
I
love that.
Yeah, actually, my hero in this, he ends up being
his 4-year-old talks like he's only been around businessmen.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, no, I was gonna say he ends up a ward for his niece and nephew as well, and he has no idea what to do with them because he's a single man, and he ends up with like a 4 and a 6-year-old, and he's not very good with them to begin with, but he gets there, bless him.
Oh, fun. Well, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch heroes that are like fish out of water.
Yeah,
you have to kind of find their way through. So we haven't had a chance to talk. I haven't had a chance to talk to me or Peri before, and Nadine, I haven't had a chance to talk to you in what feels like ages.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could talk just a little bit about what your writing process is. Do you plot your books out ahead of time? I know we talked about the whole series. We talked about how you have some idea where things are going. How specific are you about working out your stories ahead of time, or do you fly by the seat of your pants?
I mean, I'm a little bit more from column B. Again, I would love to be more organized. For me, I generally have an idea of what I want to happen, so like in this series, A Lord for All Seasons, clearly I wanted a spring, summer, autumn, winter. And I knew I was going to base it around a family of sisters. I actually have 5 sisters myself, so there are 6 of us. There's only 4 of these, but I kind of fed off like the craziness that we had growing up. Like your biggest enemies and also best friends at the same time. I don't think anyone can achieve that as much as a sister can. So I knew that much, but they sort of just, a lot of times, especially when I'm writing a series, they'll just sort of naturally flow one from the other. So I won't always know what I want to have in the second or third book. I'll just know the characters, and I kind of see where they go as time goes on. And then sometimes I'm like super organized and I know exactly what, or I'll have specific scenes in mind that I know I want to have in the book. Like what Peri's saying, if I want it to be more angsty, like I'll know that, and if I want it to be more lighthearted in a rom-com, I'll know that going in. But I think it would make me sound a lot more professional if I said I had everything planned down to the tiniest detail, but I don't. I'm very much a pantser.
Do you get scenes in your head, or do you get the characters first?
For me, it's usually scene first, character after. Like I'll always, so just one scene will pop into my head, and then everything will stem from that. My husband calls it the voices in my head. He's like, "Which voice is speaking to you today?" Who knows? So we all like to get surprised by it at the same time, you know.
I do think that there's something to be said for like that discovery part, you know, like getting to write through the discovery rather than knowing exactly where everything is going to go ahead of time.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm writing and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening when I'm the one writing it.
Mia, what about you? You talked about characters that were being able to come back and forth. Did you have to know where you were going with the whole series before you started?
That's a good question, because sometimes writing a series can get complicated because you get this really powerful idea for book one, right? And you have all the characters surrounding it, and then you're like, oh crud, what am I going to do for book two now, right? So you almost like get an idea in your head, and it's not necessarily meant to be a series, but then it develops into that because you get the characters and you want to tell more of those side character stories. When I started this, I definitely didn't expect it to be a series. It was just one story in my head. But as I started to write it out and started to create the characters, I thought, oh, I could really make this into a great series. I started getting the ideas for the other books. And I'm very linear. It's like I can't work on more than one project at once. So I just jot all the ideas down in a notebook. And it could even be like a sentence. Because I've learned that if I don't write it down, I'm going to forget it. I could have what I think is the most amazing idea in the world. And there's no way I'm going to forget this. And then I don't write it down and I forget it. So,
almost like the muse takes it away.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, you're not going to put this down. You're not paying enough attention. I'm going to, it's gone from you.
Yes. So I write it down, you know, on a side note, and then start to come up with ideas for the other books as I go, and try to add those little ideas into book one to incorporate it, right? Well, if this character is going to do this in book two, I need to set that expectation or kind of develop that part of their personality in book one. But I feel like I'm similar to Nadine. Sometimes I'm more organized. Sometimes I can have a pretty clear idea of what I want. But a lot of times I feel like I'm a pantser. I'm just ripping ideas as I go. And I've also discovered that like for Peri, I actually really liked all of the background that you had, the character development, that his grandma was Spanish and things like that. Because I think that really develops the character's background, right?
Yeah.
And then when you do that, I feel like almost like more ideas start to come, the character starts to take over. They're a real person in your head, and you can have an idea of what they're going to do, and then it goes completely differently, right? Because they start to make up the story as they go, and I like that. That's when I feel like, okay, this is coming together. They just did something that surprised me. I didn't even know they were going to do that until they did that, right? And people, like writers, get that. I think you get that, but sometimes people are like, what do you mean they didn't know?
But they take on
in my head, and they're their own person. I'm not a ancient male warrior, but I have to pretend I am when I'm writing one. And what's he gonna do? So I mean, that's how this series sort of developed. It was really centralized on these two characters, but obviously there's, you know, Katrina's friends, like Emily, for example, who you'll see as the hero in book two, she's still in the modern world, and her friend disappears, right? And where did Kate go? And now she's searching
Yeah.
for her, and she's lost and destitute. Her best friend's missing. She thinks she's dead. So that's her development that, starts in book 2 and things like that. So I do feel like my writing style is thoughts just come to me and I just jot them down. I have a whole notebooks of just one-liner ideas that I need to get to that somehow are going to turn into full developed book someday, even if it's just a sentence or a concept. Sometimes I take seriously just watch someone having a conversation and it gives me idea for a book.
Yeah.
I'm reading an old article about something historical and I get an idea for a book. And then you just have to develop it from there. But I will say, oddly, when I get really stuck on a scene and I just don't know where to go with it, I lay down and I tell my husband, I'm stuck. I think I'm going to go lay down. And sometimes when I'm just drifting off to sleep and I'm running the story through my head and what are they going to do next, I can get really great ideas. And I'll wake up from my
Star Wars work for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got it. It came to me. So that's kind of, I guess my style is just all over the place. I don't know. It just kind of comes to me and I make it work, I guess.
Well, I think at a certain point you have a process and you just have to respect the process because it is what it is. And I think a lot of it is very specific to how your mind works, and trying to fight against it is not.
Yeah.
And I did a little seminar on Clubhouse with a group of authors, and I don't know if you were there, Evelyn, but they were talking about writing to your strengths and taking the strengths test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was really intrigued by that, and I did it, and I was really interested to find out what my strengths were. And I think that chat, my pug is slipping off my lap. Hey, babe. She's but I think that really helped me hone in my own skills and stop looking at what other authors are doing. Another author is making all the big lists and what are they doing? And I need to do it exactly like them. But their strengths aren't my strengths. We have different strengths, right? Yeah. And figuring out what those strengths are as a writer and as an individual. And you realize, okay, I don't need to there's no one right process.
Yeah.
That makes a successful story, right? It's just figuring out how you work and what works best for your mentality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Peri, do you plot your books out ahead of time or do you fly by the seat of your pants?
Well, much like my location, I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. This is the third location I've had trying to get a good internet connection. So I am the ever-moving person. I tend to be kind of I sort of have an idea, but then my characters get a hold of the story and idea keeps them from picking flowers in the middle of the book. I can at least bad stuff happens here. Very happy people, and I got a little away with bad stuff happens here. But second book, I didn't have as much of a plot, and it bit me in the behind. Just gonna tell you, it needed a plot. It needed a better outline than what I had.
I think we're losing her.
It's and luckily these books have to have the base going into the lending circle. Don't all tie together away. They're all standalones under the same umbrella. So there's a little bit of leeway there that I like. That every book can be slightly different, because if all of you like the first one, keep that up.
We would have to drink.
And they were all funny, like the second one, that humor going. So they all get to have their own feel, because every couple has their own feel.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Ladies, we have run ourselves out of time.
We were worried we weren't going to have anything to say.
Yeah, I was worried about that. It's always a lot more like herding cats than it is anything else. No. So it was wonderful to talk to you all this week. I'm going to put the links to all 4 books in the comments so that if you haven't gotten the books yet, you can grab them for your weekend reading. I'm going to say it again because it's true every single week. Dragonblade books are their best pre-order period and release price. You want to grab them right away. Don't wait. If you see something, we put out the pre-order scrolls every Monday that's got a list of all the books that are coming up, and you want to grab them as soon as you see them. On the off chance that you're busy or something else is going on and you miss them, you can read in Kindle Unlimited too, which is how I'm reading lots and lots of books right now. So, but, ladies, it was great to talk to you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys. It was lovely.
It was a pleasure to meet you all.
It was really nice to meet you, ladies, virtually.
I'm going to buy your books now, and I'll get
I
no
know.
writing
I'm gonna
done,
go
and I
pick
blame
up
you.
those books. I gotta go see what happens.
We are all one-click addicts as well. So,
Absolutely.
Yep, I love it.
all right, I'll
Thank you
see you
so
back
much,
here
ladies.
same time next
Thanks,
week.
guys. Bye.
Bye.